Do you love the problem you're trying to solve and the people you're serving, or do you love yourself and your solution too much?
We are made for community. And I think the verse you share in Corinthians points that out. We are made to work together, and there's an anatomy to helping one another. Hey, good day, and welcome to The Consultant and the Coach. I'm here with my good buddy Josh. How are you, man?
We're having fun today.
We're having all sorts of fun, which is the perfect way to jump into the life application of Anatomy of a Breakthrough. Hey, Josh is a consultant. I'm an executive coach. I feel like I just hang out and talk about books. And right before we started this podcast, we were just having a great classic argument. It was an argument, but that's right. Okay, because one of the things in the book was, it's talking about what do you do when you argue. Maybe you were the black sheep or I was the black sheep. He was talking about that. But sometimes you need to kind of mix things up because may we refine each other as iron sharpens iron.
Right.
But hey, you have 20 plus years consulting. I have 20 plus years coaching. Hey, this podcast is here to help you. Help you live and lead as a Christian leader. But today is life application of Anatomy of a Breakthrough. So, hey, what is the devotion we have for this morning, Josh?
Sure. So 1 Corinthians 10:13. Spent the last couple in Psalms. Thought we'd balance it out with a New Testament scripture. 1 Corinthians 10:13. No temptation has overtaken you except what is common to humanity. God is faithful, and He will not allow you to be tempted beyond what you are able. But with the temptation, He will also provide a way of escape so that you are able to bear it. And I think being stuck and waiting is certainly a certain type of temptation, right?
It's inevitable.
Yeah, it's inevitable, but
Absolutely
it's also a certain kind of temptation. And I think the encouragement here is, if you find yourself in those, especially today talking about the life application of Anatomy of a Breakthrough, it is a temptation. It is a fact of life. We all face it, but do not fear. These times of faith can lead to transformative growth. And so trusting that blessings will come to those who are faithful. Mm-hmm. So if you're listening to this, if we encourage you and you're going through a hardship that feels like you're stuck or you're waiting, we've been there. Keep going.
Yeah, we're there.
And if we can help with anything else, great. But nothing else.
What's interesting, so his book is set up. So this is Adam Alter, Anatomy of a Breakthrough. And there are 4 main sections: help, heart, head, and habit. But it starts with help. Mm-hmm. And part of our desire of this podcast is to help Christian business leaders as they're stuck in business, as leadership, even in personal lives. What does that look like? Mm-hmm. But what I liked about Adam's book was it starts with helping. Why getting stuck's inevitable. Keep going. And certain traps and lures that one person can get stuck in business, and I'd even say in life. Mm-hmm. We are part of a life team together. I'm part of several other groups, and one of my things I've been really pondering this week. And so my life teams and my mastermind groups that I'm part of, most just to let you know, tend to be Christian men in their mid to late 30s to early 50s. I find it really encouraging that so many people have problems. Mm-hmm. And I know that sounds a little weird. I'm like, Eric, you hang out with people with problems. Actually, everyone that I know has problems, and sometimes really, really major problems. And I was telling my wife this week, that actually really encourages me. Am I sick to say that, hey, I'm encouraged that I hear so many problems?
Well, I think what's unique about what you're saying, though, is that you're actually in community with people who are sharing their problems. Because actually there might be a lot of people who listen to this who are not in that community. Because there's a lot of people I know who actually would think, everyone I know is perfect. Or they talk about the church. I go to church and everyone just seems so perfect. Well, that's because you're actually not in community with anybody. Mm-hmm. You actually need to get in community, real community, and you'll find out everybody's got some serious problems.
Mm-hmm. And part of it is, I love being an executive coach because let's say if you were to coach with me, we sign all sorts of disclaimers when you come to my office or we meet via Zoom. I share nothing with anyone. Like literally, unless you're breaking the law, it stops with me and it stays there. But it all goes around in my head. I get to see all sorts of problems day in and day out. And it's a little bit like, I don't want to sound gross with this, but take a sanitation place. Let's say you have dirty water that comes from your toilet. Well, how does that eventually get let out into a clean lake? Well, it goes through a sanitation place. And God has made us, hey, you have stuff, I have stuff, everyone has stuff. We are built for community. He doesn't say, hey, Josh is broken, Eric's broken. No, we are made for community. And I think the verse you share in Corinthians points that out. We are made to work together. And there's an anatomy to helping one another.
Well, in that sense, I think back to your sanitation analogy, we both, are the things, we have our own stuff that needs to be sanitized, and we have this ability, I think, through faith from God to help sanitize other people's stuff, right? Not to wash over, get it, but heal it, bring healing, bring it out in the open, bring forgiveness, bring reconciliation, right? Humans have this innate ability, I think, as part of our created image of God to bring transformation, to be agents of transformation.
So there's the help aspect, and I'm going to be using Adam's 4 components today. There's the help aspect. Hey, getting stuck is inevitable. And we need to realize in our personal lives, getting stuck is absolutely inevitable. But then there's a heart aspect of it. How does it affect our hearts? There are emotions. I would assume if you have a knockout, very profitable quarter at your business, you should be very excited about this. Absolutely. If you don't meet profits, that should really bum you out. If not, there's something wrong with your heart, I would say.
Right.
At least acknowledging that. I wouldn't say, hey, some people will say, you should always be happy. That's my parents. Eric, you should always be happy. No, I shouldn't. No, I shouldn't. If something really bad happens, I can be sad. I can cry. I can get angry.
Yeah.
In a safe place and make it proportion. But that's part of it. So in terms of like the heart aspect that Adam's talking about, he has 3 aspects: exhale, pause before you play, and failing well. Life application wise, what sticks out to you? We talked about the business application last week, but in terms of like applying it to your own personal life, or even as you're consulting with people, how do we encourage people to apply, Adam's themes biblically to their personal lives?
Right. It's funny how you've broken this book down the way you asked me questions, because I thought about it completely differently. But because I don't know if the comments I'm going to make have a tie to those sections.
We'll find out.
Well, we're going to pretend they do.
You could be my black sheep, man.
There we go. Anyhow, I think this is in the heart section, but you'll like this as a runner. I thought this section on taleo anticipation. If you know, have you heard that term?
No, I have not.
You haven't heard that term?
No.
Okay.
Well, I'm smiling and nodding my head like I have.
Right.
Tell me about it.
Well, from the book where you talk about the running analogy of the taleo anticipation is this idea of you are able to expend your energy proportionally to the amount of distance you have left to go in a race. Right. This idea that if you get that wrong, you talked about the marathoner who was running really, really well and had gotten 99.73 or so % to the end of the marathon, but had actually not quite gotten taleo anticipation correct, and literally dropped, just couldn't move. She didn't die, but she just dropped and couldn't actually keep going.
Well, I've seen lots of videos of that.
I'm sure you've seen this happen, right?
People bonk right before the line.
Well, you ran the 800. Imagine if...
Well, I with my buddies call it the monster jumps on your back, or the bear jumps on your back. Once someone's on your back, you cannot run fast.
Or imagine this. Imagine you were doing a race, like an 800, right? And all of a sudden, you're expending your energy like you're running an 800. You get to the 600-meter mark, and they go, actually, today's race is 1,200 meters. Keep going. You're like, what are you going to do? You're done, right?
Yeah. Mentally, even though you could go that far.
Yeah, but yeah, anyhow. What I thought was really interesting about that section, about the heart piece, I think, was that it's the idea of staying in the moment in this, what he called, I interpret as staying in the moment. He talked about this idea of breaking things down into the smallest unit possible actually enables you to focus not on the race you have left or the days to the milestones you have left or the days till a baby's born, or the days till treatment occurs, or I'm thinking about life application things here, right? Or days till, school starts or school's out, but whatever that stress point is, or space of being stuck, but instead you collapse it all the way down to the smallest component you can think of, right? And then work that component only, which effectively is staying in the moment. Because if you break it all the way down, it's really just the next few seconds or moments in front of you. I mean, many times when I'm racing, I find or just mostly getting through a workout more than racing, because that's the hard part. It's the next 10 seconds I'm trying to get through. It's not even the entire rep of whatever.
Oh,
we're
exactly.
Doing, right. So, I mean, anyhow, that's what I thought about in terms of the heart section, I think.
But you're spot on there, because it's the heart, because the heart affects the head, and that's the next section. But my daughter is a discus thrower, which is hard for me because I'm a middle distance coach, and here my kid didn't pick up my discipline, which I will love her whatever she does, but she has something else. And she's currently in the middle of let's call it a slump. So
she's stuck.
She's stuck.
There you
exactly.
go.
But
Tell her to read the
we
book.
went to a high-end coach, former collegiate coach, and actually now he's coached some of the top throwers in the nation. And we just say, what do we do? He gave her a very simple 5 steps. Every throw, it's these 5 things. Bam, 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 bam. My daughter knows what it is inside and out, but that's essentially what you just said. Break it into the smallest thing possible. What's it going to take? And for my daughter in the throws, that's what it was. And yesterday, she had a really, really good meet because she did that.
Right.
But as we talked about into our life applications, there's been seasons in my life where I'm like, hey, I'm having an anxiety attack. I have my own coach. And so what does my coach work with? Me? Eric, what's next? How small can we make this? And sometimes it's as simple as, hey, what's the next half hour of your day look like? And which is funny because she'll go through this with me. I know all this stuff because I'm a coach too, but I almost need someone to walk me through it.
Yeah. Well, and I think that the other piece that he talks about later in the book, I know we've talked about this a lot, but I think the other way to do that is, again, back to the system 1, system 2 thinking. The more you can push into the system 1 piece allows you to really break those other non-system 1 issues down further. Again, I mean, I know we're beating a dead horse probably a bit here for those listening, but I also found that, anytime we can, again, go through every hour one at a time, as much as we can make the same in those days that don't have to require change, you can spend all your energy on actually getting through that hour related to those things you actually have to endure, right? Don't endure, chaos in parts of your life that don't matter, right? Don't eat the same foods, wear the same clothes, have the same schedule, do all these things that you can do to remove any sort of the stressors that are completely irrelevant if you're going through, especially these kind of peak areas of stress, anxiety, stuck, to break through that, right? Break it all the way down and don't worry about anything else, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And what's also interesting is give ourselves some grace. And, he says, in the chapter Failing Well, what's interesting is when I'm coaching with someone, I have a very easy time giving people grace because that's not me. Part of my coaching is I learn to separate myself from other people. So whatever someone brings to me, I consider myself an open vessel. Just come as you are. But it's different when it's us. So everyone sees their own perspective 100% of the time. So it's a little bit harder when, if anything, most of us have a really hard time giving ourselves grace because we see every single aspect of it. What does it mean to fail well? Your personal life, my life.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's the other piece he talks about in the book, I think related to that, is this idea of persistence, right? And I think the key is, while it's important to stay in the moment, I think it's also important to have a good memory, right, of when you have persisted before and been successful, right? And this obviously comes with age and experience and time, but the more you can remind yourself of ways that you've faced barriers before, you've pushed through those barriers, even though you wanted to quit, right, and then you overcame them, right, this idea of persistence in the face of adversity, and either reminding yourself of when you've done it. If you can't remember when you've done it, surround yourself with other people who've done it, and then next surround yourself with other people who encourage you to keep going, because otherwise it's super easy to quit. But persistence
and find really
is key.
trustworthy people, and this is where a huge proponent of, let's say, mastermind groups, getting yourself into a good community of people that you trust, because who have, preferably if you are a business owner, hang out with other business owners who also encounter the same thing. So they will tell you, hey, Josh, you have nothing to worry about, when you in fact really, really do have something to worry about. Or, hey, you don't have anything to worry about because I saw you fix that obstacle, this obstacle, and that one, other one over there. You got this, man. Yeah, it sucks what you're going through, but at the same time, you got this.
Well, and I liked what he said on that podcast. I think we interviewed Adam about this, but he talked about so many people, at least in our society, tend to get impatient and quit too soon. So he actually encourages folks to err on the side of sticking with something too long, which is interesting because I think most people in our culture, like, that's a big, like, oh, you never do that. Don't ever stick with something too long. Like, actually, maybe we should think about that. Maybe we should let ourselves, to allowing it. And that was the conversation from the rain concept last time. Allowing ourselves to sit in that error or what seems like a failure for a period of time. We actually might emerge with a new idea or a new growth opportunity.
And in the head side of things, one of the 8th chapter is about recombination as well as pivoting, because pivoting truly is change. So even though he would say, hey, we give it enough time, but there's also an art to pivoting. I think of when I learned to play basketball back in elementary school. The pivot is you're not necessarily moving, but you're changing your angle of reference. A pivot is to keep one foot on the ground. You're moving the other foot, but you're actually changing your frame of reference. There is an art to pivoting, both in business as well as life. What do you see when you're consulting with businesses in terms of pivoting? Is it hard? Is it easy? What do you see?
It depends. The best way I could describe the smartest entrepreneurs I have come across when it comes to pivoting is it depends on what your love is, right? Do you love the problem you're trying to solve and the people you're serving, or do you love yourself and your solution too much, right?
Yeah.
The people who are in love with the problem they want to solve, and the people that they're serving, or the people who've experienced that problem, if you fall in love with those things, pivoting is not very hard. Because pivoting is simply an expression of the data and the learning you're getting from attempting to solve the problem and to care for the people. But if you're too in love with yourself and you're too in love with your own solution that you think is the right one, that people just don't seem to adopt, a lot of, I won't say which companies I've worked with, you fail. Right? You'll fail because you don't have a market for your solution effectively because you're not actually solving a real world problem. So the pivoting depends on your posture related to those issues.
Which is where in the next chapter he gets into his diversity and crowdsourcing.
Yep. Yeah, I think the other piece I liked in this whole space too was this constant experimentation concept. Like it's not just it has to be a mindset, almost a lifestyle of constantly experimenting and looking at things and trying to figure out how to do better, different, faster, challenge, learn from convention, implement convention, and challenge convention all at the same time.
So in terms of experimenting, do most experiments work or fail?
Most should fail because you don't know what you're doing.
Exactly.
But they don't fail if you learn something. Yeah.
Think of the old WD-40, that really cool, oil in a can. The reason why it's called WD-40 is it was the 40th go-round until they got it right. There was WD-1, WD-2, WD-3. Did you not know that?
No, I didn't know
It's
that.
really cool.
What's the WD stand for?
I don't know.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, well, someone can Wikipedia it.
Okay.
But it was the 40th go-round of trying to get the right combination of what is this going to... Well, it took 4... Imagine if they stopped at 39.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have worked. But for life application, there you go. Yeah. You got to keep working. Now, there is also a time to kill something.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how do we figure that out? You're consulting with businesses. Do you encourage them to keep going? Do you stop? Or even in life, do you just give up? How do you know what's right?
I think in life, it gets back to, I would think your values, right? And what you want to achieve. And are those things helping you achieve that or not? Right? And how do you be long-term minded, right? How do you endure a little bit of pain today for the purposes of longer-term goals you have? Same thing in business, right? What are your values? What's your company goal? What are you trying to achieve? Where are you going? Life, what's your life plan? And getting smart people around you to help you with that. But then modifying and adjusting and pivoting and evolving your habits and your experimentation and to meet those things, and just keep at it. I mean, I think it's both. No one can tell you for sure. I think most of the time you just got to keep being persistent, both persistently willing to pivot, flexible, and persistently consistent. Funny enough, both together. Maybe not really helpful.
So we're coming to an end, at least of our review of Anatomy of a Breakthrough by Adam Alter. Go onto Amazon and pick it up if you have not done so yet. So we've now recorded 4 podcasts of it. What do you think a year from now? You look back on this book as it sits on our shelves, as you have continued to consult with other people. You're always working on your own life. You have your family, everything else that you do. What do you think? Go forward a year. What do you think is going to stick with you the most from Adam's book?
As a person who has consistently made the error of overthinking things and making them too complex, I really like how he encourages you to both keep going, but keep going with this mindset towards simplification. So just continually looking to remove the noise and the non-value-added parts of your life, your business, your products, your relationship with your customers. And I think that's going to be the thing that I've, at least myself, already found myself quoting to people, and have a board presentation coming up that I plan to maybe even bring the book along to reference.
So what do you think my one thing with the book that I think I'm going to look back a year from now and just stick with?
I have no idea.
Can you guess?
No.
I loved his friction.
You did?
Looking at that.
Okay.
And the reason why I like that is the business that I oversee, we're 19 years into things. So our business is humming. We're really, really profitable. But I'm also very, very aware there are some great businesses that were around 30, 40, 50 years and then went bankrupt and then failed. And sometimes you hear the idea, some people just get fat, dumb, and happy. I don't want to get fat, dumb, and happy. And if you're doing a friction analysis, well, if it does happen, because if I have 1 or 2 unhappy customers, it's not going to hurt everything else. But enough of them, it will create a snowball, and what we could have really could not become great over time.
Okay.
Do a friction analysis and of what's happening, either in business or even in our personal lives.
Say in life, it can do it.
Same thing. Do it. So anyway, this has been fun. I like this book.
Another great book.
And thank you again to Adam for letting us have this book ahead of time, the interview. And you know what? It's been good.
Excellent.
So, hey, Josh and I, we'd absolutely love to help you guys keep listening to the podcast, but also reach out to us. Go to theconsultantandthecoach.com, schedule a meeting with either one of us from the coaching standpoint or the consulting standpoint. We would absolutely love to help you guys get past some of those pain points. But until next week, hey, we're starting another book next week. So anyway, have a very wonderful day.
Take care.